So good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here discussing this very important time in not just Irish history, but also in Irish American history. The Great Hunger on Gorta Mór resulted in the great loss of life and a mass migration from the island, with many choosing to make their new home in the United States. This would eventually lead to reform and the Irish establishing self-rule independent of the British Crown. But in the United States, the Irish immigrants were met with fear, hostility, hatred, and anti-Catholicism. Since they were Catholic, their loyalty to their new home was questioned. The fear-mongering by the Know Nothing movement sounds similar to today, and culminated in the burning of two Irish Catholic churches in Philadelphia, St. Michael's and St. Augustine, and almost a third at St. Philip Neri, just blocks from here, when the Pennsylvania Guard fought them off and lost, I think, 12 of their own members in the fight. It was mob rule. It was gunfire, gun battles, fires. As we know, the cathedral on the Parkway was originally built with windows you couldn't reach with a firebomb. That's why there were originally no windows on the first floor. But the Irish in Philadelphia and in America responded by becoming productive and valued members of American society. They became leaders in the fields of public safety, with many becoming police officers and firefighters, politicians, and literary people, and carrying on the wonderful traditions of Ireland. Irish immigrants were essential to shaping Philadelphia into a city known for its resilience, perseverance, and not willing to back down from a challenge. We're going through a very difficult time in our country today in a national discourse that I will not take one side or the other. I think maybe you know where I stand, and I want to get into that. But what I want people to recognize and remember is that many people today were in the same situation that our people were in the 1840s. The bloody hand of the Pope was going to ruin America. We cannot allow religion to be a litmus test of Americanism. It's just not fair. And I know it's hard, because we always say, yeah, our people emigrated to America, but we did it differently. Well, I can assure you, Ellis Island didn't open until 1892. All our folks, most of our folks came in the 1840s, and they were undocumented, because there were no documents to have. And we crawled off coffin ships in Boston, New York, and Philadelphia, and were hated and feared. And I know sometimes it's difficult being here 4, 5, 6 generations to the past is back there. But the past is the present. The past is the present. And that little boy sitting in that plane, covered with dust and blood, is no different than our folks who were starving to death, crawling off those ships. The same people. Because God made us all. And God made that little boy, and God made our people. I recognize the anger sometimes and the difficulties that politics brings to the conversation. And again, this is not a political conversation. This is a human conversation. I look into the eyes of some of those folks today, and I see my ancestors. And I see the people who couldn't apply for a job, who couldn't live in certain neighborhoods, who were told to go back where they came from. Well, we didn't go back where we came from. Thank God we stayed. And we've become who we've become because of that great hunger, because of that discrimination, because of that anger, because of that anti-Catholicism. We are who we are because we weathered all that, and we came out the other end. Just keep it in mind when someone says something that's off color or ignorant, or don't maybe know their own relationship to immigration in this country. I mean, if you look at Italian-American experience, Jews, I mean, God love, I mean, that group of people went through centuries of discrimination. When Joe DiMaggio's parents are confined to their home in California after Pearl Harbor, when Japanese Americans who fought valiantly for their country in World War II were interned in concentration camps. Sometimes our visceral reactions to things because we fear creates that situation. And the Irish were feared and hated. And we didn't speak the language. We didn't speak the language. We came off the boat not speaking the language. But we learned and we persevered. And I think it's very important that we understand our own history, and our own history, Irish history, is not Green Bear and Shamrocks and the Fighting Irish. It's not that. It's part of it, and it's the fun part of it. But there's a deeper, meaningful longing for freedom. That is what we are. And I think that if you understand other people's plights, Southeast Asians, whose countries were bombed by us, who were on our side and who came here and went through refugee camps and came out the other end just like our folks. There's group after group and ethnic group after ethnic group that went through these things, as we did. We have to be empathetic, we have to remember, and we have to make a connection. And I hope that movies, that documentaries like this will do that. God love you all. I mean, I love my ethnicity, I love my Irishness. I love the fact that William Butler Yeats still makes me cry when I read his work. And for me, one of the greatest poets that ever lived was Yeats. And Stolen Child will still make you tear up if you read it in the right way as he wrote it. So thank you all for being here. Thank you all for what you do for our ethnicity, what you do for making people proud to be Irish Americans, and up the Irish. Thank you.